Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have the first episode of 2024 with Mr. Max Sinclair. Hi, Max. How are you?
Hi, good to be here. Andrew, how are you?
Good. So I'm just finishing my day and you're just starting your day. So maybe you can tell the audience then where you are hanging out, so to speak, in the world.
I'm hanging out in San Francisco. So we just finished Techstars. So I've been here for a few months. So coming back to the UK in a week or two, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, it's been great. Being in San Francisco, going to all the events. I was at a kind of one of these typical startup events last night. You meet a lot of interesting people. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Oh, so you miss Blighty then? That's what you're saying. You miss dear old Blighty, that little island that we all live on sometimes.
I do. I honestly really do. And I mean, I don't know if you or the list. Well, I know you've been to San Francisco, but it's very, very American. And there's,
I think that's an understatement. Yeah,
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot which makes you miss home. I think. It's all I do often feel when I'm walking down the street like I'm in an alien world. That's not even an understatement.
Okay, so for all our US listeners, then please don't take that as an insult from Max, but he's obviously still hanging out. But he's going to be escaping. He's going to be deported. They're going to be deporting him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
he's going to be going back in a cargo, not a proper flight. It's going to be a cargo flight in a box. So yeah, I mean, I feel the same as well. It's sometimes it's quite strange, isn't it? When you have this fascination. I remember the first time I went to Silicon Valley or San Francisco was like 1997. It's quite a few years ago, and you have this kind of like because it's like the home of technology, and you go there and it's like a religious event, going there to pray at the altar of tech. But sometimes it's not, it's not quite what you expected. But,
yeah.
There's some amazing people there, and it's a really what I found is when I've been there 3 or 4 times, obviously different companies, and it's very, very welcoming. I think there's a general the attitude of people over there. They're kind of like let's just go for it. Whereas what I find in the UK and Europe, it's slightly different, a bit more conservative over here. I'm not saying Conservative Party followers, but the kind of like the appetite for risk. Is slightly different. I don't know if you've got the same view, but
yeah, I mean, on the tech side, I think it's unparalleled. I think you're completely right. And for example, I've gone a lot of startup events. I've gone to startup events in Toronto, in the UK, and in here. And in the typical ones in London and Toronto, you'll be talking to a founder, and they'll tell you your idea, and then you'll be like, "Okay, how far along are you?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I'm still at my job. This is just like an idea I'm having. I'm just here to kind of,
like
learn
a side
more."
gig. Yeah,
and you have the same conversation, literally, like, and I mean this in no offense, but someone who seems equally impressive and intelligent when you talk to them, same conversation in San Francisco, and you go, "Oh, how far along are you?" They go, "Oh yeah, I've just raised 3 million," and like it's just a different. That is very different, like how fast people move, and it just like shocks me every time when you kind of hear also where they are in the stage of the company, like and like how much money has been poured in. That's kind of crazy. And I think you do like it's definitely a lot more vibrant. Like you could go to an event every single evening and have like a really high quality event if you wanted to. So I'm doing 3 this week.
Right.
And there's just so much going on, and on that side it's very good. I think it's more of the non-tech side which makes me miss home. The kind of the atmosphere as you walk down the street is it leaves a lot to be desired, and like a lot of, we won't go into it, but a lot of stuff there I think is with a lot of problems that the city's facing.
Don't be scared. You're in a safe little little container. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
No.
Well, they have a real problem.
Yeah.
There's a real problem with drugs and homelessness. I think it's very sad. It's very concerning.
Mm.
It's very strange given how wealthy the city is. You
Mm.
know, like this is, you know, I think California is like the fourth or fifth richest like country in the world if you made it a country, not just a state, right? So it's not an issue of wealth. It's almost certainly an issue of policy, and it's totally bizarre because you know you can't buy toothpaste here without getting someone to come and unlock the toothpaste. You know, everything is behind a lock and key. You know, there's a lot of car break-ins and this kind of stuff. So like there's real social problems that the city has, which
it's a massive contrast, isn't it? It's
which
massive
is sad.
contrast.
It's totally bizarre, and like I'm you know, I'm glad. You know, it's very weird, and I think like someone someday should sit down and work out like how the policy led to this. Like I don't know what happened, but like it's in a real interesting way, which is a real shame. Like it's a real shame because the nature around here is stunning. Like it's in the most beautiful setting. The parks and the mountains, and you have the bay. So like and it's always sunny. So it's like it's in a beautiful setting, and also like the tech scene, as we talked about, is incredibly vibrant. So it's
yeah, but you can't
somewhere along the way.
You can't have a perfect world. You can't have a perfect world, Max. You see, I suppose that's the problem, isn't it? That's the yin and the yang of all these different places. There's always like you know the both sides of the coin, so to speak. You know, it's but yeah, I mean, I definitely in the last few years, it's definitely got worse, especially in LA and SFO and anyway, yeah, I mean,
but I'm on. I was just going to say on Techstars we had a very global cohort, right? So like you know, people from Nigeria, people from Colombia, Bogota, people from Chile. So you really had like in the 12 companies, like completely global. You know, obviously I'm British, but we're a Canadian company. Like you had like a guy who came from Brazil, literally like a village in Brazil from London,
right.
like person, and like the fact that you're getting these people like from all like you know from all over the world coming to what should be the richest city in the world and being like this is you know this is crazy. I think it's not a great endorsement of you know how what's happening in the US. I think. Well, no, I wouldn't say the US. What's happening in California?
I'm sure. You see, I'm sure that you know the 2024 election, is going to sort it out.
Yeah,
you know, and it's going to be like from going like this, it's going to be like this. Yeah. So we won't go down that little rabbit hole or that massive rabbit hole, should I say?
No comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about the Sting record actually. You know that like the Englishman in New York. It's like an Englishman in SFO. You see, isn't it? We should like record that song again, Max.
Well, I listened to the Arctic Monkeys Fake Tales of San Francisco, and that feels very pertinent. You know, because anyway. Yeah,
sorry, I was showing my kind of musical taste and decade that I was around. Anyway, so I mean, we met initially last year, I think, when you were kicking off, because you kind of like jumped out of the heady heights of a certain large organisation that begins with A and ends in N. I believe I remember, and we had a chat, and then you've had some kind of stellar progress. I know you jumped into the stuff you've just done recently. I mean, congratulations on getting through into Techstars, because they are like up there as one of the the top in the top 3 basically. I think accelerators for tech startups. So hats off to you for doing that. That's an achievement in the first place, getting into that cohort, because I know that the selection process is pretty stringent. So I mean, how did you find that?
So my reflection on that is, I think at the early stages, which we were then, so we had probably raised around like 30K when we applied US, and now we've got about 275, including the Techstars stuff. So it's, but like we had very, very limited money at that point. And basically, and it's like, it's not a secret, right? You can just go on the website and or read one article by this, like this founder, CEO, and you'll find it, right? Their whole thesis is around like customer love. and they're looking for companies who have built a very built something where there's a small number of customers, maybe 10, who like absolutely love the product, use it daily, like can't live without it, and that like company has the ability to, in your imagination, to become $1 billion company. So like that's, but the second part is less important. They're really looking for the first part. Like, do you have a few customers who love your product? And I think honestly that we do have that, but when you're doing the application, if you understand the thesis, you would talk to that, and you would probably get past. We didn't even get an interview. We didn't talk about that. I talked about it all in a very Amazonian style.
Right.
As I here's the top line numbers and why.
It's like a Jeff Bezos memo, was it? Is that?
And Techstars are slightly different. I think they are more focused on businesses which can make. Well, first of all, we're on with the future of e-commerce. We're on the future of e-commerce program, which is which is the LP, or like the investor, or people who've like paid for the program at eBay. So I think the first thing they're looking for is like e-commerce companies potentially that could work with eBay in the future. So that obviously helped us. That's kind of the space we're in. And then secondly, like the more general Techstars thesis is just about building, reaching profitability quickly, building sustainable companies, being lean, and like a bit more not beholden or dependent on like VC dollars to make something, but really like going through customer growth to pay, like basically being a sustainable company for the long term.
Customer balance sheet. Customer balance sheet. Yeah. Customer profitability.
Exactly. That isn't just spending VC dollars to kind of for clicks and views, which is more of the YC thing. Like they're happy, they're kind of happier to have that. Techstars is more about the latter, right? Building like a strong company that's going to.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? Vanity KPIs. Do you think is that the route you're going down there with that? You think clicks and
so? Yeah, I think. Well, yeah. I mean, we had lots of discussion on KPIs at Techstars, and basically their view is, from the Techstars point of view, your first KPI should basically be like MRR or something similar, which is like
booking order bookings, revenue bookings,
exactly, some form of revenue, and then your second two KPIs should be something really specific to your company that also measures like customer success. Like if you're doing your job well, these two things will be trending upwards. So like something really
renewals. So like basically protecting churn.
Yeah, but like even more specific for like, so something that like so for in Airbnb's case, you're doing my memory now, but basically in Airbnb's case, like the first one was like revenues or bookings or whatever it was, and the second two metrics were like beds like on the platform. How many beds do they have on the platform? Obviously,
like the estate.
And then also not just that, but like beds in like a certain price range, because they kind of knew what their sweet spot was in terms of like price. So they're like really specific things, but like they know like if we increase our beds on platform, we're going to grow. So for us, we have like revenue under management. So like how much of sellers' revenue do we manage for the customers? And this is important for two reasons. Firstly, like it's just if a customer tries us for one listing, surely they're going to want to expand to their whole catalog if they think it's good, right? So they, we should grow
expansion, upsell,
and this is slightly different. Yeah, I'm like, we don't charge. We charge. Currently, we just charge per month, right? So you could someone could be paying us $165 a month and do it for 4 listings, and only have 4 listings that we manage. Or they could be doing their, thousands in their entire catalog, which customers do. So we want to measure, like, do they actually, using it? And secondly, like the more revenue we have under management, the more data we get for, what works and what doesn't work, and conversion, and the rest of it, which we then can use to train the AI model to enhance the product for, for the customers. So, like, that's a pretty important secondary metric for us that we look at. And so yeah, for example.
That's good. I mean, I know when we had a chat like the other day, we were talking about pricing and about your experimentation with pricing. About what's the magic number, and
Yeah.
that was an interesting conversation about. You get to a point where you saw a drop off, and then you kind of just readjusted, and then you saw the flow. It's very very interesting. It shows how sensitive these things are. But you've also got to experiment. You just can't like set a price and then just leave it. You've got to keep experimenting.
Yeah. So that was the advice we got, which was basically to raise prices by 5% every few months, and then once you start to see drop off in terms of, so you're not raising it on current customers, you're just raising it on new customers on the website. So you're just hiking up the price for people to convert. And then when you see like a drop off by 20%, either in terms of your natural, how many customers just kind of organically just click and buy, or in the sales teams, or the sales if you're the founder yourself, like you're starting to see like 20% less conversion in terms of people buying it because it's too expensive, then go back to the one beforehand, where you notch see that. Back. So that's roughly. Yeah. And we did do that. Like we did it we did it relatively early on. Like before Techstars, actually. What we did during Techstars was just experiment with different models. So like like you could either have a per month subscription, or you could charge per product, or you could charge there's different ways of
different price driver.
Yeah. So we experimented with trying to charge by success. So we say, hey customer, like basically we're not going to charge you anything, but then like if our generated product listings increasing your conversion, we want like 10% of that.
What you mean? 10% of that commercial
revenue.
Margin. Take some commercial margin. You mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Which the customers absolutely hated. So we stopped that pretty quickly. Yeah, they really hated that. I mean, it like yes, we tried that.
Bold. I mean, that's bold though. That's bold, Max. That's that's like a value. It's like a value deal, isn't it? It's like saying, we'll go all in.
Yeah,
we'll give you capability, but we've got to share in the. It's a win-win. So interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting as you say, because for me, like I'm very very happy with that model. Like I get, for example, I get affiliate. We have affiliate marketing, right, which is basically just that. Like they get 20% of the revenue for the things that they do for the customers they sign up. So like someone can sign up 1,000 customers, and then they get 20% of all those. They make good money. And we have affiliates who are like semi-professional affiliates for us, who will literally do like Google ads and stuff on our behalf, and then they take 20%. And I'm super happy with that model. And when I get other people like emailing me, say, hey, I want to pay me this upfront $5,000 or whatever, and then like I'll book you 30 sales calls. Like I don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't want to trust. Like I don't know how else.
Well, the interesting thing is on that merch, because you're basically playing with the gross merchandise margin. It's like then that shows a confidence in what you've got as a capability. If you're prepared to go all in on that. But that's interesting that people weren't prepared. I suppose it's because it's maybe too early.
Yeah. Well, that was my view, that like exactly. It's like my thesis was that it should be easier because we're basically going to customers for free, right? Like they try it. If it doesn't work, they're not paying anything, and they only pay if it works. So like, but I mean, what it's you test these hypotheses, and like pretty quickly you learn that like you're wrong. People don't think like that, and that's the learning that we got from the market, and we stopped trying to do that pretty quickly because people like they just weren't happy at all. Like you could really tell they really didn't like it. So yeah, we're not doing that.
But never say never, Max. You see, put that back in the car park for later.
Well, like if someone asked for it, we'd be happy to do it. I think the other challenge is that to try it, there's a lot of data in the back end to try and prove that like this was 10%, and you don't want to get into arguments over attribution and blah 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 with the customers. So yeah, I mean, like, we also have like we tried like per token pricing, so like per listing rather than saying here's per month per token. And we're doing a deal now with a 14 billion retailer who wants that, and they've explicitly said like we want to pay in that format. Our hesitancy for like non-enterprise standard sellers is that like we want to encourage people to use our tool. So like I'm very wary of like doing a pricing where like each time you use our tool more, you're going to pay. So therefore, like naturally, you're not going to use it until like you really feel that you need to, and then you're going to pay the extra token. So I don't like how the incentives rack up. That being said, like if we're doing it, this company have like 300,000 plus listings, and also they have budget. They have like they're not gonna. It's not the kind of it's not like a small owner who like owns the entire business. If they spend they can't.
Doesn't sound like a mom and pop shop. It sounds like a pretty major institution
exactly.
or organization.
They have department budgets and stuff. So they're like so it's not. So they just kind of want to know, I guess, like what the price is, so they can put it into their own financial planning and whatnot. Model. So yeah, we're going to experiment that in that case again. But yeah, I mean, it's a constant experimentation, and obviously our prices change as well. Our costs change as well. So that's another challenge.
So I suppose just stepping back a little bit, because obviously we jumped straight into this topic, but nothing like diving into the swimming pool together straight away. But for obviously people that don't know your background, I mean, obviously we spoke last year, and one of the things that obviously you were working for a very significant business and for a number of years. What was the trigger to say I'll leave that kind of that environment and go down this route? I mean, was there kind of like something that happened, or
honestly? I was at Amazon. I had kind of been there for 6 years, so I had 3 or so promotions, and I kind of got to the level where I knew that the level above me, I was one of the the youngest person like where I was, and like people would be double my age and still there, and then the level above, like the minimum would be like in their mid late 30s. You just like you didn't see people at that level at my age. So I was like, I'm gonna have to.
You're an outlier. You're an outlier.
I have to sit here and grind out 5 years, or like 3 to 5 years, to really to even give myself a shot at growth. And I've just always wanted to do my own thing. So it's always been a big I've always wanted to run my own business, and it kind of felt at the time that it was the right time. Like I'd kind of achieved what I'd and grown to the point that I'd wanted to in the company, and I felt that my growth would honestly be a bit limited and for the foreseeable, and like I'd learn a lot more and have a lot more fun doing my own thing. And I mean, the trigger point honestly was I'm big into like cold water swimming, and I had this so I got onto something called Entrepreneur First, where it's like you kind of go there and you like meet a co-founder, and I was like debating accepting, and I kind of went into the ponds with my friends, and you jump into ponds of cold water, and like I don't know what it was, like as soon as I like hit the water, I just like knew that like I had to like I don't know what it was, like an epiphany. I was like, I just have to make this jump, and like I just have to make this jump into the unknown, into entrepreneurship. So I kind of got out the ponds, and I was with my friends, and I was telling them like I'm going to quit my job, and they're like, oh, that's crazy. But there we go. That's kind of what forced it, and it was the best decision I made. Like it was a hard one, because I had my parents, dead against it. Like, don't do this.
Oh, really?
There wasn't there wasn't even eComtent at that point. Like there wasn't even it was a complete unknown. Like you're going off on a program to potentially meet a co-founder, to potentially start a business. So it's like complete unknown. And they were dead against it.
It's like that's but Max, that's like jumping in the Serpentine in the Lido, you know, like when it's minus 5 degrees or something like that, you know.
Yeah, literally. It felt exactly. I felt that kind of analogy as I was doing the cold water jumping. Like this is, you know, it just felt. I can't really explain it, but it felt like the right thing to do. So yeah, I kind of did it and worked out in the end. So well, let's see.
So you just triggered one of my stories. So a number of years ago, 10 of us on at 8 o'clock in the morning went into the Serpentine in the Lido. You know, I won't say completely naked, but we all went in together. You know, did the kind of Wim Hof stuff and all that kind of stuff, and then one of the guys from that, we did it again. Then a couple of years later, and we were in the Lido because we got asked permission, you know, down by the Serpentine in Hyde Park in London, and then this group of school children came past the Lido, and they were going to the teacher. What are those two men doing in that water now? Because, you know, obviously everybody else is completely, you know, like, you know, covered up to the nines, and we were kind of like, it was absolutely freezing. But it's definitely a wake up moment. I'd highly recommend it. So
yeah, I mean, one of my best friends got me into this, and got my other friend into it as well. And he's gone to Wim Hof, he's gone to Poland, he's like done it.
Oh, is he? All right, okay.
In the yeah, he's fully in. I'm like, you know, I've explored it, but I'm not like I'm not as
you're not a zealot.
You know, I can't say I want Wim Hof and everything, but I think it is brilliant. Like you really feel as you get out of the water, like your body kind of reacting.
You definitely feel alive.
I read this book about yeah, and I read this book about dopamine, and like it's called Dopamine Nation. And this was before all of this stuff, but it was just about how like we live in such a dopamine world of like social media and like sugar, and like everything is just triggering our dopamine, and actually it's really important to do things which, you know, are hard, like exercise or jumping in cold water or hard work, because that like lowers your dopamine, and then your body will naturally like find that equilibrium and balance for you, and that over the longer term, and that will make you feel really good. So like, you know, if you sit there and you spend 4 hours on like TikTok or whatever, you will then, you know, your dopamine will be really up, and then like your body will like bring it back to equilibrium, and you'll just feel terrible like in the coming months or sorry, the coming days, right, or hours or days will just feel awful. And like, yeah, cold water swimming is the opposite of that. Like it's really tough, and then kind of your body just naturally resets, and you have that natural kind of dopamine equilibrium, and you just feel amazing afterwards.
Correct. Yeah, it's like the afterglow, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a book that I recommend. So there's a guy called Stephen Cotley. You probably heard of him. I don't know if you've heard of him. The Flow Research Collective. He's got a book called Enter the Gnar, Gnar.
Yeah.
And I was on a session with him last year, and he did skiing, like extreme skiing, and that inspired me to go kite surfing last year. And my God, that is wild. That is really wild. But it is that thing about. So basically, he has this phrase in the book called "kick ASS before you kick the bucket." That's the phrase of the book.
Wow.
So if anybody's listened to this episode, I recommend you read it because it's quite enlightening. But yeah, extreme sports, and keep your body moving, and don't lay on the settee. Yeah, remove your settee from the front room.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I was so last year when we spoke, I mean, I know you were early stage, but the kind of the thing that you saw, did you see this kind of piece around the intersection of like e-commerce and Gen AI, and that's kind of what kind of is that the kind of the piece that you saw that you thought, aha, there's a white space here. There's somebody that needs to dominate and help help brands and help
Exactly.
retailers to get in a different place. Is that what you kind of your third
Well,
eye? That's what your third eye saw, basically. Is that right, or
so
am
I
I
was
getting
on
that
this
wrong?
program. So I left Amazon. I went on Entrepreneur First. I was on this program, and basically you have 30 commercial. So you have like 20 commercial founders, 30 technical founders, and you're kind of you pair up, try and work on a project. Like they kind of force you to like experiment really quickly. So it's like a full-time thing. It's across a few months, and you kind of are there, and you're like, you have an idea, you build something really scrappy and quick. Could even just, and then you take it to the market, test it, see if it's working, like build on it, or like break up, form a new team, form a new idea with someone else. So I was on this program, tested a few different.
So it's a bit like blind date for tech founders, basically.
Exactly. It's like it's like Love Island and The Apprentice.
It's
kind
like
of merged
Love Island.
Yeah, that's honestly how I would. That's honestly how I describe it. Right? It's a crazy time. Like it was really intense. But anyway, so I was on this program and I was like, working with different founders, technical founders, and different ideas. And then in September, in September, kind of the technical founders all had like a WhatsApp or whatever, where they just chat to themselves. And September 2022, Stable Diffusion was released, which is the first public Gen AI model that you could build on top of. And they kind of had this meeting. They organized this meeting, and I went. One of them told me, so I went in this meeting. It was about 2 hours long, and they were basically all saying, they were just explaining they're just discussing what this was and like how it was different. And it was like I didn't know much about. I knew about AI because I did like the machine learning course at Amazon, so I know about like classical like deterministic AI. Didn't know anything about Gen AI. Right? No one knew. Like I think that this time it was super experimental stuff, right? Like very few people. This is before ChatGPT. Nobody really knew about it. Yeah. And I was in that room, and they were just discussing what this was and what it meant, and like how it can create content, and like like spitting some ideas about like what content to make. And I was just sitting there thinking like, this is going to absolutely revolutionize e-commerce. Like you could create new content, like sellers need content. It's all on, like obviously everything's online, like it's digital content. Like this is just going to completely revolutionize everything. And after that meeting, my now co-founder, who's a PhD in AI, I kind of went to him and I said, like, could you take a product and like create like a, put it in a setting, right? So like take like this cup, right? Put it in a scene, like on a table in a coffee shop. And he was like, like it's probably possible. And then he spent that weekend building a demo. Right. And it was a pretty, very quick demo, and it had all the problems of like, hallucinations and like distortions of the cup, and like it was, the cup looked slightly weird and different, and the text was, was blurred.
And, like two handles on the cup. Or something
exactly,
like that.
Exactly right. Like it was like that, but basically you could see like immediately you could take a product and put it in create a completely new setting for it, and that and at that point was kind of like when we went, we partnered up, we went full time on it, and we kind of definitely evolved the vision and the business to where we are now. But basically it was like this new technology is coming, like it's going to completely revolutionize anything. And what was very exciting is like, even if you had a team of 100 scientists and whatever, like this technology was released that week, right? So like it wasn't possible to do it before. Like nobody had it, not Amazon, not Google, no, maybe Google had like something similar, but like not like any competitor, like in like the e-com service space. No e-commerce SaaS company had anything, and now suddenly you had it. And as we now, like, a year later, like a year and a half later, it's like this is also a massive problem for e-commerce companies, because like in able to do this effectively, they have to rebuild their whole tech stack. I didn't know this at the time, but basically like you have to build, like you have to rebuild everything. You have to build multi-modular embeddings, you have to build RAGs. So like there's a whole like new way that you have to build your technology if you're going to like do this properly. So, but at the time I was like, this is amazing. Like we are literally at the start of, like the internet or the printing press. And I felt that if we could execute well, we could build like a very big company here, because we just got super lucky that like the technology happened to be released at the same time I was like on this program surrounded by like technical founders. So that was kind of the origin.
Serendipity.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly lucky. If I had delayed it, and it was quite funny is that you see entrepreneur first and you see like previous cohorts, like the cohort after us, they have like a competitor to us, similar idea, but the problem is like these guys are 6 months behind us,
right?
And not just 6 months behind us in tech, they're 6 months behind us in in the e-commerce community. We're pretty, I don't want to say we're well known, but like we have happy customers talk about us, like we like
you got testimonials and traction.
So like we got testimonials, we've got traction, we've now we've got Techstars, we've got more money. So like if we were even 3 months later, it would have been too late, because like people,
wow.
we weren't, it wasn't a genius. It didn't take a genius to be like, wow, this is going to change e-commerce. Like basically anyone would have, if anyone was in that room that day, you would have been like, okay, this is going to change e-commerce. Like
just think, you see, Max, all the people that I could have on the G&T sessions, you see, and I obviously looked into my crystal ball, and in that first conversation we had last year, and I thought, I've got to get him on the show, you see. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, it's like it's it's fantastic about how you can build history. You can build the way forward for this stuff. And somebody was obviously looking down from on high and working their magic for you. So
well, exactly. Well, I mean, it did feel like extremely lucky, because, as I say, if I was 3 months earlier, 3 months later, you would have missed it. Like the timing was completely aligned, and therefore it was like, okay, can we just execute the best? And I had 6 years at Amazon. My co-founder's a PhD in AI, so like we felt like we had as good a chance as anyone to do this properly. Like we had the technical expertise, we have the commercial expertise, and the knowledge of the industry and like the connections. So that's kind of how it all started.
So I suppose on the converse of that, because obviously we talked about some of the kind of the great things that have happened in the last 18 months. Any kind of things that have been what you could call valleys that you want to share? That sure. That kind of oh my god moment, and you had a plan, and then the plan kind of fell to pieces.
Interestingly enough, so as I said, we're on this program, partnered up, and this was in Toronto, and we were like the favorite from that point on. We were like the program was pretty savage, and they would literally like basically rank us, and we would pitch. Every Friday you would pitch in front of investors, and they would put it in order, like so the best people go first. And we were pretty much like slot one every single week, because the team liked it. The team in it's a UK company, and I think on the UK side, they didn't know us. And anyway, you go to the investment committee, which was like $75,000 for 10%. So like pretty bad terms, but like at the time, like you want the investment, and you go to the investment committee, and it's with the the head office in the UK, not the Toronto guys, and basically they didn't know us at all, so they didn't really know that feel that we were know that we were a good team and seen us working and how fast we'd gone, and we'd paying customers by 4 weeks. So kind of we launched it, we built a scrappy MVP, so we really were quick in terms of we were in a closed beta, but we had a couple $100 in revenue, but if you think it was literally a 4 week period, right? So we had got a contract with a big person, which we later did, but hadn't had the money in the bank. We had a few paying customers anyway. So we went to this investment committee and didn't get their investment.
Right.
And that was pretty tough because, you know, like at the time it felt like everything was going really well, and like then kind of like they I think the view of the UK office, which was fair, is like there's going to be 1,000 Gen AI companies like springing up, and you know, like they didn't know us and didn't believe that we were going to be the ones to dominate or win. So they're kind of like, this is, you know, this is too much of a hot space to invest in. So we didn't get that. And at that point, to be fair, we were just talking about images. And so like the business was, you know, we were literally 4 weeks old. So like it was you know, we hadn't had all the learnings and stuff we've had now, but like, you know, we're basically saying we're going to build like, you know, a product image, you know, tool for sellers. And that was kind of the entire business that we pitched to them, and they didn't invest. And I think like, yeah, that was very hard because then kind of, you know, you're kind of sitting there like, well, what do I do now? Yeah, and you know, but we decided to carry on. I came back to the UK just because that was then like in you know, it was in winter in Toronto, and it was horrible,
pretty savage.
And just like the environment was just savage. So I came back to the UK, managed to raise a little bit of money, which then the business remained Canadian. Like we built, like we incorporated in Canada, remained Canadian, raised a little bit of money, and in Canada they have lots of grants, so they kind of have you know, you could turn that little bit of money into like hiring 2 interns, which we did. So like we literally turned, like, as I said, we raised like 30K, something like this. Hired 2 interns full time to like build out this stuff. We kind of like expanded the vision to like generating all content, so like text, image, video, like all the different content. And then I think the key also for like onto text, like helped us to get on Techstars, was then to say, okay, but like we're not just going to do this at Amazon. We're going to help you like take your Amazon listing, put it onto Walmart, eBay, everywhere else, because you know, all of these like marketplaces have slightly different requirements. So like, you know, an Amazon title is 250 characters, eBay title is 80 characters, and like how you go from 250 to 80 in a smart way, like it's a great use case for this technology, right? And AI, and like, you know, optimizing, and you know, for SEO and conversion. So like we really, you know, there's a lot. So
you went from like a single platform play to like cross-platform play. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Which increases your kind of your TAM and stuff like that, doesn't it? So yeah.
The TAM, the defensibility, the like, you know, like making it exactly. We went from being a feature, like a feature, to a platform. Like at the beginning, we're literally like a feature, generate this image, right? And now we are literally a platform. Like we have sellers use us to list across different marketplaces. So like we fixed that, but that took time, and like it, you know, that took. So we had like almost a year, maybe 9 months of, you know, no salary for me or my co-founder, like really struggling in terms of, you know, we always had revenue, but it wasn't enough to kind of, you know, in good faith hire a permanent team, because, you know, we just didn't have you know, enough revenue to say like, well, now we're going to like enable someone to like commit their life to you know, to having a career here, in the knowledge that like they could be fired tomorrow, right? So like it wasn't fair to them. So it was a so that was like 9 months of quite a struggle. And I think in those times also, like, you know, like you're thinking about different visions. So like this is where we arrive now, but like there was hundreds of, you know, tens of opportunities in front of us of like, do we expand it this way or that way and that way? So like there's a lot of discussion about how do we actually like,
where do you focus
forward. Exactly. But yeah, like kind of we applied, as I said, to lots of different other accelerators like YC, and it happened. And actually, we did something which is probably bad. We would like apply different business ideas to different accelerators. So we would like, we'd have different ideas. We'd have like how we could do this quite differently, and we would literally be like doing one thing to YC, one thing to this, one thing to that, which is just to kind of like, I think because I was very scarred about not getting that EF investment, which I felt was slightly unfair and blah, 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 blah. So not that I felt like I deserved it. Like, I don't think anyone deserves anything. I think it was unfair in the sense that I felt that if we were in the London office and the people making the decision had met me and my co-founder in person and seen us, like we were literally working weekends, evenings, like if they'd seen that, I think they probably would have invested, because they would like, yes, this is a feature, but these guys are going to.
But you see, you can use it as an inspiration, right? You can use it as an inspiration to say, "Sorry, guys, you missed out. Look where we are now."
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully, like they at the time they say they have like their like negative portfolio or whatever they call it. I can't of like companies that they didn't invest in that do well. And to be honest, like it's only been a year since then, or maybe slightly more. But like, yeah, slightly more than a year since that. But I'm very grateful that we didn't get that, because the terms are horrendous. So
it's a big chunk.
Give away 10% of the company for such
it's a big
low
big
amount
chunk
of money.
of equity.
Like we got a lot better. We're now got better terms. On a better program. So I like it worked out in the end. But yeah, at the time it was pretty. It was pretty tough.
Interesting. No, thanks for sharing that. It's it just shows it's not easy. You've got to really go in. You've got to really grind it through and keep going.
It's not smooth. It's not smooth. Yeah, and we what's very interesting is it's just been over a year, and of the they made 5 investments on that program out of the 50 people that were there. And only 2 of those companies a year on are still around. So 3 of them have literally just like broken up, because like founder relationships are really the key thing. Like it's like that, and it's not a huge amount of money they give you, right? So like it's like you kind of realize this now, like it's really nothing. You can't do anything. Like obviously it's good because you could do a bit of. You have something to go for, and like it helps you with the next, angels and the next stuff. But like it's really not a lot of money. So yeah, like and interestingly, there's another company who they didn't invest in, also in the Gen AI space, who are doing even better. I'd say, well, it's hard to judge, but like they're doing pretty well, like maybe better than us as well. So like of their like negative cohort that they didn't invest in. There's us, and there's another people who they're called Astras. They've now raised like 2.5 million. So like they've gone on, like they didn't like they didn't stop like with that knock back. They were just like we're just gonna go and like go to VCs and like try and raise. And they did it like a few months later. Yeah. Whereas we. But you see,
the thing is though, you can take you can take too much money too early, and you can overcapitalize. It's like, how do you right size the capital for the model as you're still trying to find out where your sweet spot is. That's the thing. And then when the equity's gone,
exactly.
When the equity's gone, it's gone, isn't it? That's the thing. Unless you Phoenix the company or something, I mean, it's drastic, But, so it's a challenge.
No, I mean, I don't know the exact terms that they've done it on, but I mean, it's just quite a funny comparison to say like a year on from like, because these guys are making bets basically off 4 weeks, right? Like they're looking at people for 4 weeks, and they're like, now we're gonna, I think like almost every company didn't have revenue. We only had revenue because like we kind of like it's easier to get revenue from an e-commerce person than like these guys are selling like they're selling like microchips to like Nvidia. Like that's pretty. You're not gonna get that in 4 weeks, right? They're doing so like they like so. But yeah.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
No, thanks for sharing. That's good. I mean, one of the final questions I've got for you was about for this episode today was about, I suppose, given your trials and tribulations and progress you made so far. One of the things that we try and do is get people to share their pearls of wisdom. So, what would be any top 3 that you would share? People listening to this episode today and going, right, I'm currently working in a very big job, in a very big enterprise, a bit like you were, a few years ago.
Yeah.
What's been your learnings? It sounds like you had some entrepreneurial genes in you, but what would be your what would you share on that kind of dimension, I suppose, or those kind of
I think the first learning. Yeah, the first learning, and this is one that we learned the hard way, is to pick something unsexy and hard as your to do. Like, you don't want to be working on, like we were, product images, because it's so sexy, it's so obvious, and it attracts, like, bees to honey, all these other like I said, we were like on that, like the people I talked about who are 3 months after us aren't doing the integrations to platforms, all that stuff. They're literally doing product images. Like they literally are like take your product, create a product image thing. And they're around now. And these guys have zero e-commerce experience, right? They're just, but if it's something super sexy and easy, like you'll get a bunch of engineers out there who are like, oh, I'm going to crack this problem. I'm going to work on it. It's really obvious. So I think like when you're building when you're thinking about an idea, like it has to be, well, my advice would be to do something which is challenging and boring, like listing across different marketplaces, something which is like no one in their right mind is going to go, oh, this is really fun and sexy and cool to help people to like change the catalog attributes between one flat file and another. But that's what you have to be in order to not, like, because in some ways when you're looking at competition, you're not just like looking at competition that's out there now. Like, it's very easy to say, oh, Gen AI has just arrived. There's no no one's, like, you look at the market, no one's doing Gen AI. So like, when you're building your competition slide for like a product image generator, you're like, well, your competition are photographers and freelancers and painters, right? But that's obviously wishful thinking, because you're also competing against all the other people in your exact position about to build a company that don't have a website yet, but like are dead set on doing it, and they're going to launch in, like you are, in 6 months' time. So you need to be very careful to build something that is to choose like a hard and unsexy problem to work on, that well.
I like that. I like the phrase
insight.
Hard and unsexy. Hard, unsexy, and boring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like we took about a year to transition to something which was very sexy and flashy to something which is now like that, like unsexy, hard, boring, complicated. And that's where that's the space where you want to be.
You could say hard, unsexy. You could say, Max, hard, unsexy, and boring, but essential to your ideal customer.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think the second thing is a YC mantra. Like, I very much like the YC mantra of like, all you need is love from customers. And I think I think is, like, it's very easy. What we found is that, it's very easy to get someone to try something, right? Like, like people will try something, but will they stick around? No. Like, if they don't love what you're offering, they're going to leave in a month, 2 months, 3 months. So I think you need to, once you have a product, you need to be first, before you're optimizing for scaling sales, which is the things that people are, you're tempted to do, and which we were guilty of this as well. You want to be optimizing for like, how do I get the people who are using it now, using it every day, like expanding it across the whole catalog, like, love, that they love the product. And before, once you have like that love, then you can start scaling the product. Before then, there's no point. So yeah, those would be my big two.
That's great. That's great. Fantastic. Really, really good. Okay, so thank you very much for coming on today's episode of the GNC Sessions, first one of 2024. You have the honour, Mr. Max Sinclair, co-founder and CEO of eComtent.ai. Got that right? Not content. Yeah. So I wish you a tremendous amount of luck and tremendous amount of future success, because I think you're definitely onto something. And I was always captivated when we first spoke last year about what you're working on, this kind of fusion of these different areas. And long may it continue. May you continue to acquire multi-billion-dollar customers who want to love your solution. It's like get that heart out, isn't it? It's like that's what you should do. Put that into your branding.
Yeah,
we love customers. A bit like Southwest Airlines. You could be the Southwest Airlines of Gen AI e-commerce. So yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to get hold of you and learn more about what you've done, what's the best way of connecting with you? And because I know actually you congratulations actually, because you've just launched something, haven't you? You've just launched a little thing just recently, haven't you? You've got your own show. Is it live yet? Is it going live? Is that right?
We have my own podcast. So the best way to find me, it's called New Frontier, the AI for e-commerce podcast. It's very much for our customer niche of people who I own or are leadership within e-commerce businesses. So like we have we get on guests who are working on interesting things in e-commerce or are good operators in the space, who exits and that kind of stuff, just to discuss how to apply the latest AI to how AI is changing e-commerce, because there's so much going on. So yeah, that's the launch. But the best way to find me either is LinkedIn, Max Sinclair, or on Twitter. I'm now back on Twitter.
Okay. You can't say it's X now. It's X. It's X.
X, Max Sinclair 4 on X as well.
Okay. Max Sinclair 4, you said? No? Max?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll put this in the episode notes anyway. But yeah, thank you for coming on the show today, Max. It's been a pleasure. And I'll watch from the sidelines, and let's go for a beer when you're back in Blighty.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for your time. Cheers. Bye.